A dangerous and potentially explosive weather pattern is now beginning to unfold across the United States, and conditions are expected to become increasingly volatile as we move deeper into the week and into the upcoming weekend. Forecasters are warning that multiple rounds of severe thunderstorms could erupt across large portions of the country, bringing destructive wind gusts, giant hail, isolated tornadoes, and torrential rainfall capable of triggering dangerous flash flooding. The atmosphere is rapidly loading with energy. A major shift in the upper-level pattern is underway, and this setup could open the door for repeated storm systems to sweep across the plains, Midwest, Great Lakes, and parts of the South. The calm stretch of weather is fading fast, replaced by a far more unstable and dangerous environment capable of producing widespread severe weather outbreaks. Today's storm threat remains relatively isolated, focused mainly near the Gulf Coast, Louisiana, southern Mississippi, coastal Georgia, the Carolinas, and parts of eastern Florida. However, even isolated storms could become intense quickly, with damaging wind gusts over 60 miles per hour, blinding rain, and localized flooding possible this afternoon and evening. But this is only the beginning. By Tuesday, a stronger frontal system will begin crashing through the Midwest, placing areas from southeastern Kansas through Missouri, Illinois, Wisconsin, and northern Indiana under threat for severe thunderstorms. While storms may remain scattered, any cell that intensifies could unleash damaging winds, hail, and dangerous lightning. Then, the atmosphere begins to destabilize even further. As the week progresses, extreme warmth surging eastward from the plains will collide with incoming Pacific storm systems, creating a much more explosive setup heading into Friday and the weekend. Meteorologists are increasingly concerned that this pattern could support a more widespread severe weather outbreak across the central United States. The Storm Prediction Center has already issued an early severe weather risk for parts of Kansas, Oklahoma, and northwest Texas several days in advance, a sign that confidence is growing in a potentially dangerous setup. A powerful dry line is expected to sharpen across the southern plains, while deep Gulf moisture races northward into the region. This combination could fuel supercell thunderstorms capable of producing giant hail, destructive winds, and tornadoes. The highest threat currently appears centered on southern Kansas, western Oklahoma, and northern Texas, but the risk zone could expand significantly over the coming days. Saturday and Sunday may become especially dangerous. Large clusters of severe storms could erupt across the plains and Midwest as instability rapidly increases. Forecast models are already hinting at powerful storm complexes capable of producing widespread damaging winds and torrential rain stretching from eastern Kansas into Missouri and possibly farther north into Iowa, Wisconsin, and Illinois. Flooding may also become a growing concern as repeated thunderstorms move over the same areas. Heavy rain is expected to increase across the Gulf Coast, Florida, the Midwest, and parts of the Northeast through the weekend. Some locations could see localized flooding if storms repeatedly develop over saturated ground. Meanwhile, dangerous heat is also building. Temperatures are expected to surge well into the 80s and 90s across much of the plains later this week, with some areas potentially approaching record highs. The expanding heat dome will help supercharge the atmosphere, providing the fuel needed for stronger and more violent storms as colder air crashes into the region from the west. By early next week, severe weather threats may stretch from Texas all the way to the Great Lakes as a massive warm sector expands across the central and eastern United States. The atmosphere appears ready to reload continuously, meaning this may not be a single outbreak, but the beginning of a prolonged and highly active severe weather period heading deeper into May. Millions of people across the plains, Midwest, South, and Great Lakes should stay alert over the coming days as this dangerous weather pattern intensifies. And what makes this setup even more concerning is how long it may last. Long-range forecast models continue to show the jet stream locking into a highly amplified and unstable pattern across North America. Instead of one storm system moving through and ending the threat, the atmosphere appears capable of reloading again and again, potentially unleashing repeated rounds of severe weather through the second half of May. This means communities across Tornado Alley and beyond may not just face one dangerous day, but several waves of storms over the coming weeks. Meteorologists are especially watching the clash between extremely warm, moisture-rich air surging north from the Gulf of Mexico and colder disturbances diving in from the Pacific Northwest. That collision zone is expected to become a breeding ground for explosive thunderstorm development. And once these storms form, conditions in the atmosphere may allow them to rapidly intensify. Forecast soundings already suggest increasing wind shear across the plains this weekend, a key ingredient for rotating supercells capable of producing tornadoes. If instability reaches the level some models are projecting, the environment could support long-track severe thunderstorms capable of producing widespread destruction. The greatest concern at this point stretches from Texas and Oklahoma northward into Kansas and parts of the Midwest, where the atmosphere may become extremely unstable by late Saturday into Sunday. Storms developing along the dry line could quickly evolve into dangerous supercells before merging into large thunderstorm complexes overnight. This raises the threat not only for tornadoes and giant hail, but also widespread straight-line winds capable of causing damage across multiple states.
Power outages, downed trees, dangerous travel conditions, and flash flooding may all become major concerns if the forecast trend continues. At the same time, the heat building ahead of these storms will be intense. Large portions of the central and eastern United States are expected to experience summer-like temperatures well above average, with widespread 80s and 90s expanding eastward through the weekend. This heat and humidity will act like fuel for the atmosphere, helping storms become more explosive once they ignite. Some forecast models are even hinting at the possibility of a large-scale severe weather outbreak early next week as a stronger storm system pushes into the plains and Midwest. While details remain uncertain, the overall pattern strongly favors continued storm development across a massive portion of the country. Even areas outside the main severe weather zone may still experience dangerous conditions. Torrential rainfall could trigger localized flooding from the Gulf Coast into the Ohio Valley, while strong gradient winds across the plains and Rockies may create hazardous travel conditions and elevated wildfire concerns in drier regions. The bottom line is this: the atmosphere over the United States is entering a much more dangerous phase. A prolonged stretch of volatile weather appears ready to erupt, with severe thunderstorms, damaging winds, large hail, flooding rain, and tornadoes all becoming increasingly likely as we head deeper into May. Now is the time to stay alert, monitor forecasts closely, and prepare for rapidly changing conditions, because this weather pattern has the potential to turn dangerous very quickly.